you showed some slide, and I want to get into a few different things because there are companies that are, I mean, they're opening factories for their electric vehicles. I'm seeing things between companies like DHL and Ford. They're collaborating. Can you talk about some of the companies, the carriers that are making these investments or have made
Yeah,
investments?
I think that one of the best cases from an international logistics company perspective is DHL. We've been having lots of conversations with DHL. They're one of the largest, if not the largest, logistics company in the world, depending on the statistics that you read. And they actually are. Europe is generally much more progressive in terms of emissions reductions than North America is. There's a lot of people in North America that care, but in general, more of the population does. And so, if you DHL, when we toured their facility, in front of the facility, it's all these electric vehicles. It's all about zero emissions by 2050. And I asked about these, and they said, "Listen, we wanted to build because they're part of the German postal systems, like the German post office,
Right.
DHL. They wanted to build all these zero emission small vehicles for delivering mail and parcels. And some of them are pedal assist, like we see now in Vancouver. Some of them are purely electric, but they're beautiful little things. And no one would manufacture them for them because they didn't feel there was sufficient demand. So they became an electric vehicle manufacturer. They're the largest electric vehicle manufacturer in Europe.
As a result of this.
As a result of this, they just got ahead and started building electric vehicles. And there is a transition now occurring. I don't know if you're following this, but I want to buy an electric car. I haven't bought an electric car yet because I'm not going to buy a Tesla. They're too expensive. And I also want it to go at least 250 miles. I'm not going to be afraid. I don't want to be afraid that my battery's going to be dead at 80 miles, right? But now, and I need a four-wheel drive vehicle because I go back up into the mountains, I take my kids in the snow, etc. I'm insecure.
Sound familiar, guys?
Okay?
Yeah, we were just
Guess
talking
what?
about that.
There's an entire fleet. There's 12 new options that are all electric, zero-emission vehicles that are coming on the market at the end of this year. And they're increasingly totally price competitive to purchase them with the conventional gasoline vehicles, and then the cost of operation is a fraction of it, and the cost of maintenance is a fraction of it. So as this continues, the gasoline-powered vehicle is dead. It's gone. Goodbye. Nobody, once they've gotten into these things, and there's no more range problems, and the cost of ownership is low, is going to buy an electric car. It's going to buy a gas-powered car again,
yeah.
okay? And so the same process is happening with these fleets of vehicles as it becomes available. It's just which are the applications. And with the current cost of the batteries right now, battery technology is going through that same exponential decline that solar power did. Because for a long time, it was prohibitively expensive. And for a long time, it kept plateaued as barely expensive, barely affordable, and then it just collapsed starting on 1998, just right down, right?
Yeah.
Until like, how low is it going to go? So as that happens and we convert, there will be a moment where you just don't go back.
Yeah.
And they're going to be recycling and crushing all those cars.
Couldn't even imagine going back.
Yeah, would just, it's laughable, actually. You're going to that's just so, no more than you go back to the phone from 1970 with the cord. It's like, you've seen no, we don't do that anymore. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
Other than records, people keep bringing those back.
Yeah, the records are cool. No, absolutely. But, there's some things you just don't go back to, right?
Yeah. I want to talk about some of these projects. I saw one on the slide, this crazy Europe underground.
Oh, yeah, let's actually go out to that.
And funny, as you're bringing that up, Gary, we actually had Bombardier on the
wrong?
show. Who was Bombardier? Was last spring, and
Yep.
they came on the show, and they were talking
A little
about
further, yes.
their underground systems for.
Okay, here we
Here we
go.
go.
Yeah, all right. So this is the Trans-Siberia project. Not just Trans-Siberia, called Trans-Bering project. And this is actually Interbearing. See, it says source Washington Post, the Schiller Institute, Interbearing 2016. So there's the Russians and the Chinese are totally interested in this. They're totally interested in funding this. We've been on the Trans-Siberia Railroad all the way east to where it ends right here, right now. They're actually proposing right now to build this track. They have it in their budget, actually, to build the track out to that point right there. And there's only a limited amount of track that needs to be built, primarily actually in Canada, connecting up into Alaska. There's definitely
so some
track.
of it's the infrastructure, some of it's already there.
Oh, yeah, a lot of it's there. It's actually a very little bit of connecting that has to be done. But the bottom line is that this sees there's the proposed Canadian segment, there's proposed, and there's the rest of it right there. And we'll have to enlarge this to actually see it. But
Yeah,
here's
we'll bring
the
it up
most
on the
important
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
The most important thing is that we have the technology, we have the resources. The Russians and the Chinese are all over funding it on their side, which is much more of the work, to actually build an intercontinental railway system that would be a combination of high-speed trains and freight trains. It could all be zero-emission electric. That would totally connect the old world and the new world, okay? And it's perfectly feasible. As I recall, the Bering project, it's 60 miles of underground tunnel or a bridge. It's like $60 billion. It's an infrastructure project a country could take on, let alone internationally could take on,
Right.
right? And let alone if you Wall Street and the European markets just fund it privately, right?
Yeah.
So and what that would enable is, first of all, it would enable the movement of agricultural goods like the Canadian wheat to China. It would enable all the tourist people that don't want to fly and that don't want to go by ship. We don't want to go by ship anymore. To sit on a train. I love trains. And go to Paris.
I just
Oh,
got back
yes.
from Japan. It was
Yeah.
just the train system. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
all right. It's basically, it's almost inevitable as long as we can just maintain peace between all the different countries and just work this out in terms of global economic integration. So we've been promoting that. We promoted that in Silicon Valley. The issue is when in the United States, North America, people are like, what? What's that? In Asia, they're like, yeah, we know all about that. We're building that.
Yeah.
Here, they're like, oh, yeah, what are you smoking?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not smoking anything. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's inevitable, dudes. So anyway.
Sounds so unrealistic.
Yeah, but we want to make that in our lifetimes. We want to see that happen.
Oh, that would
Absolutely.
be fantastic.
So
Yeah.
are you talking? Is there potential and talk of this for in between large waterways? Like, are we talking about training underground, or
Well,
is
no,
that sort of
remember
off
the
the
Bering
radar?
Strait where we walked. When people came to the New World for the first time, it was during this glacial period, and this was actually the sea levels were much lower, and you could walk. The continents were connected.
Yeah.
There's only 60 miles that separates it, and it's very shallow water that separates the new and the old world right there. So
Right.
that tunnel goes through that close point, and there's actually three islands halfway through. So you don't even have to, in the middle of it, you actually come above ground again. So it's actually segments. It's like a 30-mile segment and a 30-mile segment and some short segments. So it's not an engineering problem. It's just a matter of a political problem of actually just getting it done, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
investment in political. So we're promoting it because it would be great to be able to move all this stuff via electric rail
Yeah.
between the continents, as in addition to inside the
Yeah.
continents.
And people.
And people, yes, and
Yeah.
people, and also, and we're not even talking about like putting in the Hyperloop system. And one of our clients in our previous company was an airline pilot who developed the Hyperloop system map for the whole world, and we published it because he wanted to see this 5,000-mile-an-hour super train that connected the entire continents.
And I think they're building that in.
Yeah, they're building segments of it, but that's like futuristic, and we're just talking about regular height trains and maglev train technology that's been around 50 years here.
Yeah.
We don't have to go to Hyperloop. Hyperloop can follow it eventually.
Yeah.
But then it's 5,000 miles an hour. You don't see anything. You
Yeah.
just like zip, and you're like in a spaceship, and it decelerates, and you're in Moscow.
That's
It's
right.
like get off, and I
It's
just
not
got
the
on.
same.
Yeah.
Too fast.
Yeah.
I think the whole point of
Yeah.
traveling on a train
Yeah.
is to see everything, right?
Yeah,
Is to see
exactly.
the beauty of the world.
That's right.
But you said, I think you mentioned. I mean, they're using this.
Oh yeah,
is
no, whole
around.
segments of this all over. First of all, China is investing right now $1 trillion in connecting into the interior like this through Kazakhstan, etc. They've already shipped the first goods from China to England this way because it's actually much safer and faster than sending it around. Like they send it in 14 days on the existing train network. So that this is already in progress. This is all in. This infrastructure over here is all in place. I've been on it. That's the Trans-Siberian Railroad. It's fantastic. There's actually 2 tracks, one here and one here. So we're just talking about this part of it right here, and a little bit in Alaska, and a part right here in Canada. The rest of it's all built. So it's connecting it. It's
Yeah.
connecting the rail systems.
But
Most of that stuff was
that-
done in the 19th century.
This section up here, though, that politically, that's going to be the tough one.
Yeah, and also, the environment community will be worried about the exploitation of resources up there. There's a bunch of things. Mostly it's a matter of relations between Russia and the United States. That's the big one. It's just having good relations between Russia and the United States.
For a sustained period of time while
Yeah,
this
and
all gets.
I'm married. I'm a product of the peace and prosperity after the fall of the Soviet Union, funded by all these forward-looking people in Washington and in New York who sent me to Russia, to the Soviet Union again and again. And so I know all these scientists, and I'm married to a Russian, and so I don't have any troubles with the Russians. I know the Russians well, but it's just a matter of politics. And the Russians are ready when they're ready. You want to sign in something? We'll sign. They're just like, okay, you want to growl? We'll growl.
Yeah.
So, but they're all there, mostly raising their children and drinking vodka and producing a lot of organic food and waiting for us to come to our senses and say, let's shake hands again. Let's
Yeah.
build a train.
Yeah.